All right, Chance, let's get right to it. Terry Francona was joking, but Thursday morning at Great American Ballpark, as the Reds were packing for Milwaukee and also contingency planning for the possibility of having to go from Milwaukee straight to Los Angeles for the wild card series, Tito said you could take a look at how much people were packing for the trip, and you might be able to tell who really believes. Well, after the Reds finished off the Pirates on Thursday, thanks in large part to a spectacular catch from Noelvi Marte, do the Reds have more believers out there? How would you rate the belief in the Cincinnati Reds as they head to Milwaukee for the final 3 games of the regular season?
We'll talk a lot about Noelvi Marte and his moments. But
Yes,
what the
we
moment
will.
represented was the whole point of all of this, like the whole thing. The whole thing is that these are young guys with talent. There is real upside. There are guys who can do things like scale a wall and make a catch where their arm is reaching back into the second row. Most baseball players can't do things like this. Can't do things like spin breaking balls for 12 strikeouts the way that Nick Lodolo did. I'm going off the top of my head here, but they can't in their like 114th appearance. I guess Tony Santine allowed a run today, but you get the idea of what I'm doing. There's real upside with a lot of these pieces that also reflects some inconsistency that like shows up when you drop the series against the Pirates on the whole. But in a given moment, in the right time, timing is everything. Noelvi Marte had great timing. The Reds' potential to have great timing gives them a shot going forward.
The Reds did, as you said, lost the series to the Pirates. They lost control of their own playoff destiny in the process, but they had a 5-2 homestand. The energy in the ballpark for the Pirates series was special. Tyler Stevenson said it was on a different level even than the opening day crowds he's been a part of. The question now is, what will the final chapter say about the 2025 Reds? And this is going to be fun to talk about what we have to work with on this show. Welcome to Power Stacks, proud members of the Growler Podcast Network. Coming up, 159 games in. Think about that for a minute. 159 games in. Thousands of decisions, baseball decisions, big and small, have been made in Cincinnati. What single bold decision stands out as maybe the most impactful one for the Reds this season? Also, he's been dominant, and he may not be done just yet. Terry Francona's thoughts on the handling of Hunter Greene. That's on the way. And if the Reds, if they did pack for more than just a weekend series, what gives them the best shot at an extended stay in the playoffs? Those topics, those conversations, each one I look forward to on the way. But first, Chaz, this. Terry Francona said, given the circumstances, and by that, he means the playoff chase, the 9th inning, the one-run game. Given those circumstances, it was one of the best plays he's ever seen. He means Noelvi Marte's catch on Thursday in the 9th inning. But Chaz, let's take some time on the backstory of Marte even making it to that moment for the Reds in right field in September in a playoff race. There's a lot to unpack here.
To me, this story starts like in early July when it became clear that Noelvi Marte was just not going to be able to make the throw for whatever reason from third base to first. And it got awkward, it got uncomfortable, and it weighed on Noelvi. He was either making game-changing errors or getting pulled for defense, which is less fun than the other, which is more embarrassing than the other. Those are real questions. What are the Reds going to do? All right, kind of not on a limb, but kind of on a hope, on a chance, not on a prayer, but maybe even on a prayer. Let's give him a shot in the outfield. Hopefully the athleticism plays out. No one knows how this is going to go. The line that's been in my head all day was Terry Francona saying that day in New York, if this doesn't work, blame Cowgill. And it was a joke. But the idea was nobody knew. Nobody knew. And then there he is. And getting to the point and the moment he had on Thursday was a direct reflection and product of just true work. And then approach and mindset too. Mindset and approach for a guy who you could question what you saw in that area in 2024. And that's growth. And that's growth that pays off.
Two things from my standpoint that I see is one, you're right. When Noelvi Marte was at third base, there came a time when all of us watching the games on a regular basis, anyone watching the games, could feel the uncertainty and the tension of Marte making a routine throw from third base to first base. And I love Noelvi Marte. I hated feeling that way about him. That's the first thing that stands out. That was real. Everybody felt it. The second thing is things like this don't typically happen in season. No
Yeah.
matter what you think of the athlete, no matter what you think of the potential for someone somewhere else, if you think you're a team that can win, you don't make changes like this mid-season in taking one of your main players, someone you're thought or you think that can help you win games. You don't make a position switch. Maybe you make a switch from short to third or from third to short. It doesn't happen from third to the outfield. And that's what makes this move for Noelvi Marte that much more remarkable. And as you've pointed out already, the way the Reds handled it from Terry Francona to Collin Cowgill, that's what makes this such a unique story because it has worked. It hasn't been perfect, but it has worked, and it showed up in September.
Noelvi Marte has room to grow defensively, and I don't want to say he's a finished product. Look at the balls over the head to his right, and then when the ball rattles around the corner in right field, that still gives him problems. However, we saw it first with just the pure arm strength from right field on those throws home. Then you see some of the speed show up, and then, of course, the robbery today. It doesn't usually go like this, especially on winning teams, because winning teams don't take these chances. Even losing teams, like look across the field this week, O'Neal Cruz has had a terrible season defensively in his first year in center field. And then on Wednesday, he gets hurt trying to jump through the wall. Like that, and he's been playing outfield all year. He made that change last year. That is often how this goes. For Noelvi to battle through, to work through, to have the support, to have the mentors, to have Cowgill shagging fly balls in the outfield with him, and to have, I think of Santiago Espinal saying, I'll go with you. Let's do some practice together. And TJ Friedl constantly, man, I feel bad I haven't brought this up earlier, like this season. Every break in the action, there's Friedl talking to Marte in the outfield. Like they are constantly conversating. And then going up all the way to the top, the big organizational decision that got made, all of that comes together and has a piece in a moment like this.
Terry Francona was asked about it. Certainly, he's been asked about it throughout the season about making that move. But to see it and to see, I think, what fed the belief, or at least created a longer leash for when this decision was still early in the process, was as much as we could feel the tension of Marte trying to make the throw from third to first, and as universal as that was, it was almost equally as universal that when he was in right field, all of a sudden it freed him up at the plate. Terry Francona mentioned it early on as you're evaluating him as an outfielder, back in whatever month that was when it was happening, you couldn't help but be influenced. Your patience, I think, be influenced by the fact that it almost immediately looked like it helped him offensively and helped him mentally get back to just trusting himself as a ball player and an athlete. And what the natural skill set is for Marte, especially offensively, to see that almost immediately come out. I think they said, okay, we're going to live with a few things in the outfield. It's not going to be perfect. They knew that from the start. But to see it immediately impact Marte, I think that fed this decision and pushed it forward.
But it also didn't have to go that way. You know, obviously it couldn't keep going the way it was at third base, but moving him to right field created its own set of challenges, its own set of adversity that Noelvi had to deal with and overcome. Here was my favorite quote from the clubhouse today. Jose Trevino talking about what Noelvi showed him with his move from third base to right field.
Put an incredible job. I mean, he's been doing out there, especially since he first got out there. I think to have the courage to be able to take on that task of being like, you know what, like, I'm going to try this and I'm going to do it. And I don't care if what people say. I don't care if there's bad things that come from it. I don't care what happens. I think it's the courage to be out there and the willingness to have the guts to even try that.
Is that incredible? And, throwing like Lodolo and he did and all these other guys as well. Like, is that kind of what this team is? These young guys with talent who put them out there in a moment?
Yeah.
And let's see what happens.
There's a few guys that were here, I think at 23 when they made their run. But you can see these guys like taking it, step by step and being like, you know what, these moments are learning moments.
And these guys just keep learning through, let's call it what it is, Tuesday and Wednesday. I don't want to say it's failures, but it's high on the can't happen list. But now you get to Tito, like they've kept playing, like they've kept showing up. They've stayed with it. Nobody's like tanked this season and fallen off dramatically. They've all battled. And even in September, like, we've talked about Marte, like McLain's been struggling. McLain's also had some moments in September. Brian Hayes has had some moments over the last 2 months, like collectively up and down the roster. Sal Stewart, even the guys who are new, the guys who have dealt with stuff, like they've stuck with it. And nobody dating back to the start of 2024 has stuck with it more than Noelvi Marte.
And I'll also take this moment just to say again, and I know you agree with this, but I've enjoyed this season watching Jose Trevino kind of preside over some of the clubhouse. And that's not to say that he's the only one. But we didn't know him at the start of the year. And as you get to know him and his personality, but you also watch him interact and watch him with his presence with some of the younger players, what you just had in terms of him talking about Noelvi Marte, we've seen that all season long. And you can see him enjoying the ride right now. I talked to him early in the season just about his past experience and about, kind of feeling like the bar could be raised in Cincinnati. I think that's been one of his objectives throughout this season, is to make some of the younger players believe not only in themselves, but believe that greater things are possible team-wise. And they're not there yet, not by a long stretch, but it's been fun to watch it develop. And going back to Marte and the work that Collin Cowgill has done with him, I talked to him when he was getting a start, I think in center field. I think it was maybe in Los Angeles. Not positive.
That didn't go well, but
no. But
forget about that day.
They had the same belief. They had the same belief in his athleticism and the opportunity, and they had the boldness to try it. The right field experiment could have gone the same way.
To try it after he practiced out there for one day.
Yes.
That's something I keep going back to.
Right. But the right field experiment, I know there was a little more into it, but not a lot. It could have gone the same way.
One day. Yeah.
Right. The Reds had there's a boldness about this decision, knowing, and we can do this with the whole gambling theme of the clubhouse and the Terry Francona thing and all the things they do that play into gambling. This was a gamble. It was a risk to even attempt, but they did. And Collin Cowgill talked about his work with Julio Rodriguez in Seattle and the same kind of belief in the player and the athleticism that he had then that he shares now with Noelvi Marte. And who knows what, it's still just something that's only been done for a few months. But I think what you wrote on the chalkboard about this being the most impactful decision and coaching, that you can go back to point to the coaching and the help that he got throughout this process, I think that's dead on.
I mean, thank you, Brian. When when you make it to like these games, and we experienced the same things with the Bengals in 2021, not that the Reds are breaking through to that extent, but everything comes back and crystallizes. So like I was thinking about Cowgill a lot today. I was thinking about when Terry Francona gets the job, and for like 2 weeks he's meeting every day with Brad Metter. How do we want to
Mhm.
assemble this staff? You know what?
Right.
Let's bring some of the old coaches back. We think these are good coaches instead of just bringing in Tito's guys, keeping JR, keeping the pitching coaching staff, keeping Collin Cowgill, and then seeing the work they're doing. All these decisions again crystallize in a moment like this. So here's Collin Cowgill. Let's get to him talking about what that moment was like and what it meant and what was going through his head. What's that moment like for you as a coach?
Yeah, I mean, it's a special moment for all of us. I'm just, he should be really proud of himself. I mean, that kid has worked tirelessly to be a quality outfielder. We've done some things out there around the wall, but TJ has helped him immensely with his ability to time steps and all those things. So I'm, ecstatic right now, but he should be extremely proud of himself for how hard he's worked and for that moment to happen for him.
Where did the idea come from back in July?
I just think it was a bit of a necessity. We knew we needed to get a little bit better defensively on the infield. We had an opportunity to go and get a better defender, knowing that maybe it will free Marte up at the dish and the quality of the athlete that we knew he was. Like, we just kind of thought it was going to be a good fit for him, with just all encompassing, right? Mental, physical, all those things. And again, like, he's worked so hard since we've moved him to the outfield at getting better and understanding the position. And he deserves all the credit and more for just how he's performed so far.
Jose, I just talked to him. He talked about the courage it takes to move into the outfield in a season on a good team. How have you seen Noelvi handle that?
Yeah, I mean, and he's a tremendous kid. But that's a great point. Like, the confidence that he plays with out there, it's like he's played out there his whole life. And that's just the type of person that he is. So you couple that with, a huge ceiling of talent and athleticism. And then now he's got about, 6 weeks of experience out there. So you just kind of see the ability start to really creep out a little bit more.
It's all just coming together. And whatever happens for the Reds, one of those moments, I would say it's the best moment I've covered during my time covering the Reds. So that just means one thing, Brian. If the Reds do make the playoffs, this is going to need a name. So I've been working on this, and I'd like to run some ideas by you. And I'm all ears. I'll ask if you have any at the end. Just
Okay.
give me your raw, honest reaction.
Okay.
The Great American Robbery.
Okay. I need to hear the other ones,
No, I
and then I'll
know.
give you a reaction.
Okay. The Leap 16.
Okay.
Jump Marte.
Okay, go ahead.
This isn't as much of a name for the play, but calling Ellie and Marte now Batman and Robin, Robbin apostrophe.
Apostrophe. I like that one.
Then the last one for the play is Robzilla.
Okay. I think I would lean towards Jump Marte. I like the others. And I think there might be room for more here as we think about this and as it marinates a little bit.
So like, and these aren't ideas. Like, themes I was thinking about was if there was more you could do with something like Jumpman, something you could do with Leap of Faith, something you could do with Jump Around, Jump Rope, or Jumping Jacks, or Leapfrog.
Yeah.
But getting the pun into that, or the Marte into that, or the Reds into that,
Right.
I had a harder time with.
Right. Jump the Marte's name in, Leap of Faith. I have a feeling someone will make a T-shirt that has the
Leap of Faith has potential.
Yeah,
Not that
the outline of him
specifically.
going up. Yeah.
If we can get a pun into Leap of Faith.
Yeah. Producer Kent says Great American Leap. That there's potential there. But this is something maybe we should pose to the Stacks community, and maybe on the next show we'll revisit. So if you're listening or watching and you have thoughts, and we know that you do, powerstackspod@gmail.com. Thanks, Kent. Good timing. Timing is everything.
I have a confession. I like Robzilla. That's my
Okay.
favorite.
But no one likes Redzilla.
I like Redzilla.
Okay.
Let's move on to Tito's take.
No, we're not even there yet.
We're in the
haven't even hit
leadoff spot.
We haven't
There
even
you
hit the
go.
leadoff spot yet, man. We've been talking all this time, and we just now get to the leadoff spot. So here we are, the leadoff spot. I've said for weeks, and I know this is not necessarily going out on a limb by any stretch, that if the Reds can just get in, if they get in, they're dangerous in a 3-game wild card series. And if you needed a reminder, just look at the last 2 games with Hunter Greene and Nick Lodolo back to back. Now, Greene, had a couple of dominant starts. Lodolo had a few very un-Lodolo-like starts going into that one. But he righted himself against the Pirates with the career high tying 12 strikeouts. It was dominant. And I'm thinking that throughout the entire game. Now, after the game, we're all thinking a little bit differently because the injury is in the equation now. But let's just, for the moment, table that for the moment, and let's just revisit how the Reds are built for a short series like they could face in the wild card.
Well, that's the thing now to me. Like, if they make it, now we're in completely theoretical mode for a few minutes. Lodolo and his injury, his wherever he's at, that's the story of the week now to me. If they're in LA, that is the story of the week. It's the equivalent of, like, let's say the Bengals in 2022, they're in the playoffs and Jesse Bates is now day to day with a hamstring injury. Like, that's the equivalent of the importance of Nick Lodolo here. Their whole plan all along, as I said to Brian today, the whole reason all of this exists and that we show up is that one of these days they think they'll be in a series like this against one of the blue blood teams, and the upside in their rotation, which can truly be 3 aces, not on the right night, not every night, but on the right night. We've seen it with Lodolo. I've said this his whole career. I've said this all year. Just look at the breaking ball, because he is fooled. He got hot in the summer, and we knew he was getting hot when he fooled Juan Soto with a breaking ball. I said, that's the moment. We all said that's the moment, and there he was. And he stayed hot until he got the blister, and then he got sick. I think a best case scenario here is that Lodolo still in line to start game 2 on Wednesday. Starts on Wednesday, but still Terry Francona has to keep an eye on him. I think that's the best case. The worst case is he doesn't make the start and Zach Littell does. This is series-changing stuff, those 2 extremes, and the Reds will get more information on this over the course of the week.
But, or however you want to transition, what we've talked about the past few weeks, and I want to present this to you again now. Absent one of your main starters, Nick Lodolo, there are now options. There are bullpen options that aren't 1-inning options.
Yeah.
Could they cobble together some things to not replace or not take the place of, but can you cobble together some of the new weapons and still be formidable starting a game in the postseason?
Depends on how this weekend goes.
Mm-hmm.
They pitched Chase Burns when they were down on Wednesday. And I was like, oh, that's different, because usually they've been saving him for when they're up.
Yeah.
I wondered if they're preferring to keep him on a 3 days or 3 full days rest schedule instead of 2, and pitching him Wednesday would make 3 full days rest, then pitching him, say, available in relief on Sunday. I believe he did 2 once, but by forcing him to pitch on Wednesday, that also kept him available for Sunday. So then if he pitches Sunday and you even wanted to give him just 2 days rest, well, then that would make him available for maybe a short 2 innings on Wednesday. But if you want to keep him at 3 days rest, now you're all the way to game 3 on Thursday. So, like, it depends on how the weekend goes for Burns. It depends on, do they pitch Hunter Greene out of the bullpen on Sunday? Maybe. I would say they prioritize Burns, Martinez, and some other options over that, but keep Greene available just in case. But we'll talk about that in a minute. But if Greene goes on Sunday, obviously scrap all these plans. How many innings does Nick Martinez throw over the weekend, and what would that mean for his potential availability on Wednesday? Oh, and by the way, on Tuesday, if Greene goes 5 or 6, well, you're going to need someone else to pitch the 6th and 7th as well. So how do the bridge guys impact what you can do next Wednesday? I have no idea, because I bet they're going to want to keep a close eye on Zach Littell tomorrow. That's what they've been doing for the last week or 2 weeks, keeping his start short, preventing him from facing the lineup a third time. Let's see how Abbott's start goes. Let's see how Singer's start goes, whether or not or how much they need from Burns. What that means is for Burns' availability next week, and then Martinez as well. There's a lot of options, but a lot of calculus, even though Terry Francona says this isn't calculus.
It's not calculus. It's just baseball. If it was calculus, he'd be terrified. It's just baseball. He's just nervous, is what he said this week. I think Nick Martinez is where a lot of this conversation starts. You're right about usage and who does what between now and then. But he is the trusted, known commodity for whatever they need. Whatever it happens to be, he's the most trusted, known commodity. And then you pick your spots and hopefully maximize the other options that they have right now. But as we think about that, let's get to, as you said now, Tito's take. Because of the off day the Reds had on Monday, they had some options. They had a chance. They could have tinkered, we'll use that word, tinkered with the rotation based on how they felt and who they thought they could maximize at that time. So if you throw Hunter Greene's name out with the off day, as Terry Francona was asked about by you and others, what happened? What kept the rotation on the normal turn, even given the off day and the fact that the Reds are in the race the way that they are?
This has only happened 2 times all year. The other time was about a rotation thing back in August. Terry Francona declined to answer. That's a note in this story. What he said then after he declined to answer was, sometimes it just doesn't. He was at 109 pitches last week. If we're going to ask him to do something maybe he wasn't ready to do or be at his best, it's not the right thing to do. I don't know what to make of it. What I make of it is a quote on a different topic that Terry Francona has said a lot over the years, but over this year too. He said, and this is paraphrase, the idea, when you're in kind of a weird or dangerous or quirky spot, I would rather set myself up to be the shield to take the blame. Not that he's taking the blame for Hunter Greene, but taking the blame for the decision-making process with something going on around this pitching staff. Instead of openly, transparently revealing the whole picture, Francona is deliberately and strategically answering these questions the way it is. So if it weren't to work out, Francona would be the one who'd be like, man, Tito messed up the rotation, and he's fine with that. Is there something else that's part of this calculus? I bet, because Hunter's the guy they want to take the ball. And I don't think they're just saving him for the playoffs. But I don't have the answer.
He was asked Thursday morning, and I think you asked the question, is there a chance that Hunter Greene could be available?
That too.
Available, what, on Sunday, right? To do an inning or two.
That's what doesn't make sense to me. The fact that you wouldn't push his startup a day, but you would do the bullpen thing.
Right.
I don't have those answers, but Greene is open and would be excited to pitch on Sunday.
He said that.
Greene said that to me. Yes.
Okay. That's what I wanted to clarify, that Greene said that to you. Terry Francona mentioned it. And it all depends on how things go. But the broader picture, the point that you're making is, as part of this team that they've constructed, a lot of these conversations about how to be the best version of this staff, those talks start with Hunter Greene, right? I mean, you've got an all-star in Andrew Abbott. You've got someone who can dominate in Nick Lodolo. You've got someone who's been really consistent in Brady Singer. but there are very few built for things the way Hunter Greene is built for some of these situations.
I'm going to get to the sound from Andrew Abbott, and you'll hear him say, like, Hunter is the guy in such a clear way that clearly that's how the organization of the pitching staff is viewing Hunter and his role as well. Here's Andrew Abbott on Hunter Greene.
Great. I mean, we were missing him for a while. I mean, he's our one. He's our number one. I mean, for a reason. Like he's always had this stuff. You know, from just from my 2 years being, or 2.5 years of being up here with him, it's been great to see like the little stuff kind of start implementing changes that he's been doing himself. Like whether it's the weight room changes, whether it's the mechanical stuff, whether it's pitch design with DJ or somebody. Like it's kind of fun to see that stuff like in fruition, like actually active in the game. And like we always knew that he's always had the character. He's always had the the outlook of a ace. And it was like when he took the ball and Cubs, it was like perfect blend. It was like everything working. He's dialed in. He's having fun. He's smiling, having a good time, but he's also laser focused, knowing exactly what he's got to do. Or, I feel like as pitchers, we kind of get lost in la land sometimes out there. Like you'll be rolling and then you'll just lose sight, and all of a sudden the game takes advantage. But from what I've seen, minus the one start, but everyone's gonna have a bad one. It's been laser, it's tunnel vision. We have one goal, we have one mentality.
What makes him number one? I mean, you could say you're number one.
No. Just like the consistency, when we are on, the stuff that he has, like the swings that you see teams doing, like the extra stuff that they have to prepare for, just the value. I mean, honestly, like the value that he provides on and off the field to the organization makes him like the number one. Like it's just like, he's a big like, I don't even know how to think of it. So he's a enigma in the city. Like he is like something that you'd go see. Like he is,
phenomenon.
Yeah.
There you go.
There's a word. I'm not good with in English sometimes, but a phenomenon. Yeah. Like I mean, if I was a fan in Cincinnati, I would come to watch, Hunter throw, especially tomorrow against Skeens. So, I mean, that's Wednesday matinee baseball right there. So I mean, he's young, he's got a hugely bright future in front of him. The only joke that I have is that I went to college, he didn't. So it's like he missed out on some fun. But other than that, like, you're a great kid, great family. He does a lot for the city on and off to do it. So I just think it's like those with how he performs when he is pitching will make him like our ace. And like everybody would tell you the same thing on the rotation. It's like he is the guy that we want game one, taking the ball against their best. And, lights, camera, action, here we go.
And then look at his September. He had the bad day in Sacramento. Other than that, he shut down the Blue Jays. He shut down the Mets. Great start against the Pirates. Complete game shutout, lest I forget, against the Cubs. He's done the thing. And it's been if he doesn't pitch again this year, it's been a successful stretch in the spotlight, which is kind of what you want to see from Hunter. What does he do in these moments? But you want to see the light get brighter, and that'll be the last step for Hunter Greene when the lights are all the way ramped up, and we'll see if we see it.
I would argue that would be one of the last steps. In talking to Sam LeCure and Jeff Brantley, they've both pointed out at various times this season, look, no one is saying you can control injuries or things that come up like that, but they've both pointed out that to reach that level, to reach that status, you've got to do it all year. You've got to find a way to do it all year. And he hasn't been able to yet. Injuries have been an issue. So yeah, you want to get him to that point, but you have to do it all year, and you have to be that guy that's with this team and doing it every 5 days. Now, the flip side of that right now is where the Reds are right now, is if they can get there, if they can get another opportunity for Hunter Greene, he's in better shape physically than pretty much everybody else out there because of the time that he missed. There's fewer miles on his arm from this season than most everybody else in the rotation. And so that's an advantage right now. And I think that's what we're talking about right now, is the focus on the team and where it could go and how he could help. But for him individually, we just saw Paul Skeens, who's going to be, he's going to be Doc Gooden, Rookie of the Year to Cy Young in his second year. That's the comp. That's the list. And that's where Paul Skeens is. Hunter Greene, I think, has the same potential and gifts and talent and drive and all of those things, but you got to do it over an entire season to be thought of, I think, in that certain way. Time now for Charlie's notebook. And let's open the notebook. One of my favorite things to do. I sit next to that notebook in the press box. I see notes go into said notebook, and the magic comes out of the notebook. So I think there's some things in the notebook that I think we need to touch on down the stretch here for the Reds, given where they are. When this season started and in the offseason, you poll 5 people, and 3 of them might start the conversation with, for the Reds to be what they think they can be, they get Matt McLain back. Matt McLain was their best player down the stretch in 2023, and now they get him back, and he's going to be that difference maker. It's been a tough year for Matt McLain, and he hasn't been a difference maker, and he was out of the lineup on Thursday. Where is Matt McLain? Where are the Reds with McLain at this point?
It's been a weird September because he has had some series where he has done nothing. And frankly, this was another one of those series. Also in September, what he hasn't gotten credit for is he's had like a week, like twice, maybe even 3 times going back to the middle of August, where it was a real internal behind the scenes conversation. Like, you know what? Matt's starting to look better. So he's had those stretches, and then they seem to always follow or be followed by a series where it shuts back down. But where I stand is that, and say the same thing about a lot of Reds players, you know, like Noelvi Marte got really cold before heating up. Brian Hayes was 0 for 25, and he was barely a part of the conversation. Brian, you know how much I love Sal Stewart. Sal Stewart hasn't played that well recently. He's got to work on his strike zone judgment. His third base defense needs to improve. I still love Sal Stewart, but that's just what it is. And yet there seems to be this spotlight on McLain that's unfair for a guy who's consistently playing elite second base defense. So I'm just going to say a few things. I would keep playing Matt McLain every day. I would be very strategic in pinch hitting for him, only doing like must hit situations, which would be like, I believe it was the 8th. If McLain had come up, they had Andujar on the top step to hit. But then since McLain ended up leading off the 9th, or might have been the 7th and the 8th, they had McLain lead off the inning. I'd be much more aggressive about pitch hitting for Brian Hayes, for example, than McLain. And I'm also stunned that the fan base booed McLain twice on Wednesday. I mean, that to me was one of the more.
Don't throw the whole fan base in one category. There were boos. Don't throw it out there for the whole fan base. There were boos.
I'm not a criticize the fans guy, but that was wild. That was wild for me, from my perspective. That was something very unexpected for that moment, without even including the caveat that McLain missed all 2024 and is still basically a rookie with how little time he's played and is still figuring out who he is in this league. Like, I'm not criticizing the fans, but that was like one of the bigger eyebrow raising moments of the season for me, when the fan base booed McLain. Not when many fans booed McLain.
And I agree with you that I think I would still play him. I think the odds of him, having flashes of who we have known him to be at the plate are still pretty good. And the defense is obviously really good. But for a team that has struggled, and in the Pittsburgh series, where they, by the way, outside of Paul Skeens, even still saw good, the Pirates have some good pitching outside of Paul Skeens, but the Reds couldn't score. And so what we saw on Thursday, if you put Gavin Lux at second base and get Miguel Andujar in as the DH, Andujar had a couple of hits, and he most often, when he's given the opportunity, comes up with that. So I think there's going to be the temptation to find more than a late game pinch hit opportunity for Miguel Andujar, but especially while the Reds are in this stretch where they don't seem to generate many offensive chances.
And where you're hamstrung is by the fact that Lux can't play left. Because if you could, then you could do some late game maneuvering and be more
Yeah.
aggressive subbing for McLain. But because Lux is your DH, you'd lose your DH by taking McLain out. So then you'd have to bring in Espinal as a backup to the sub. Lux's second base defense. I mean, there was a double play today that McLain turns with a second and a half of spare time that Lux just didn't make. And that's part of it too. McLain made a nice double play on his own, unassisted. Like, defense is a significant part of this. The Reds have lived with Brian Hayes's terrible slump, worse than anything Matt McLain's gone through in September. Not to pile on him, but because Hayes provides elite defense, I'd argue that defense is even more valuable at second base. And finally, if what you're looking for is power, well, McLain has a higher barrel rate this year than Steer, Andujar, who I know Andujar's a better hitter, so take him out. Steer, Hayes, Lux, Friedel, Espinal. Like, Matt can still put a jolt into one, and that's valuable. He hasn't lived up to the All-Star expectations or anything close to that. He's had a bad season. But I don't think he's this team's worst player.
No, I don't either. But just going back to what happened on Thursday, when they did put Lux at second base and DH on Duhar, there were 4 hits there between the two, including the game-winning RBI from Lux, driving in the Reds' second run. I'm just saying there are things there, but I'm with you. You know how I feel about Matt McLain. I feel the same, but there have been some difficult times for McLain, and it's not just him. You know, the situational hitting, and I'm using air quotes that we've heard so much about, that kept going. And the Reds saw some of that in the Pirates series. The final thing I'll say is, when we're talking about offense and opportunities, the back spasms that sidelined Austin Hayes initially as back
Big storyline.
It's a big storyline. It's a huge storyline. And Terry Francona mentioned on Thursday, he was trying to ride it out because you don't want to IL him. But you don't know right now, and we don't know specifically if he's coming back, but the fact that it's kept him out of the game completely for this amount of time, that's a concern, because that's a bat you need.
It was heavy on my mind on Tuesday and Wednesday, especially. And now we've talked about this before, kind of the messy middle of the Reds lineup, like in terms of tiers, like even throw Friedel in there, even though he's at the top. Friedel, Lux, Hayes, Benson, who's cooled off a bit, Steer, where Ellie's out right now, Stevenson, I guess not McLain, but Marte would be the cutoff. That's like 9 hitters who are all like, man, they can get hot, but also they're not guys you'd throw into the middle of your lineup. And that's been a part of the kind of lineup roulette that they've been playing recently. It's still not clear at all who this team's best 9 is. Austin Hayes has had his moments. He's had his slumps, even in September. And we've said this before, but it's a lot of managing as Terry Francona pieces together which 9 he wants out there on the field. Is this an offense day? Is this a defense day? How do you balance it all?
We finish up now with the question of the moment. The Reds go to Milwaukee, and I'm not going to bore you with the numbers, the wins, the losses, the series wins, or in the Reds' case, the series losses against Milwaukee recently, or with what Milwaukee has done this season. I think we're all familiar with all that. But Chaz, when they get to Milwaukee with 3 games to play, they still need some help from the Mets to lose again. They no longer control that. But how do you think they'll stand in against the Brewers, given the fact that we've seen a number of times, the Reds are down against the Pirates and the A's, but they show up against the Mets and the Cubs and some of the other good. What do you think you're going to see in the final 3 games?
I am throwing the Brewers narrative out and kicking it down the road for 2 weeks. I feel like because the Brewers have nothing to play for, and because right now for the short term, their pitching staff is a bit of a jumbled mess. Kind of stuff they're saving for the postseason. They've had guys just like, what was it? Zimmerman came up and threw 6 innings and then got DFA'd the next day. Like, they've done a lot of stuff like that recently. Now if the Reds do the upset of the century and beat the Dodgers and then go to Milwaukee, heck yes, I'm going to be walking in there with the Reds Can they finally beat the Brewers flag? And that'll be the story of that series, because Milwaukee's pitchers will be lined up, because they'll be all in on these games as opposed to however in they'll be this weekend. But this weekend, I'm not feeling that. This weekend feels more like the Reds facing themselves as Milwaukee goes through the motions down the stretch as the stakes of this game. And then now the Reds need the Mets to lose again as well.
And am I correct? The Mets finished with the Marlins, right?
That's right. I think that's a bad matchup for New York. That's my take.
You said that earlier. I agree with that. It's also on the road for what it's not like Miami is an intimidating place to play, but it's not Citi Field. I get that. That's where we stand. We've been talking about this for 6 months now, and here we are with 3 games to play. They keep saying you can't kill them. Well, they're still alive with 3 games to go, need some help. But they had, that game on Thursday at Great American Ballpark, and even the loss in extra innings, you felt something about this group that you've been waiting to see, and if you're a Reds fan, have been hoping to see throughout this season. I'm all in on 160, 161, and 162 to see how it plays out.
Let's see what happens.
We'll be here for you on Power Stacks. We'll both be in Milwaukee for this series and keep you posted on that. Follow Chaz on Twitter. Check in with me, Reds Live pre and post. And always, always look for Power Stacks as we continue the conversation down the stretch with this Cincinnati Reds team. Wherever you get your podcast, also check it out on YouTube. It's going to be fun. Chaz, enjoy Milwaukee. See you at American Family Field. And we'll see you next time on Power Stacks.